Welcome to the podcast, the one, the only Chris Dahlan, a contestant in season 4 of Perfect Match and season 1 of Age of Attraction. You're a busy man these days.
We're busy, man. It's been a busy year, crazy year, and a blessed year for sure, but nonstop. So
100%. So we're big reality fans over here. We love all the shows. We've seen both your shows. We were talking about this a little bit before, but you kind of rolled right from one into the other.
Yeah, so I finished Age of Attraction, came home. I think it's really important to highlight that coming off of these shows, especially from the mental health and routine side of things, it's hard to get back into a normal routine. So I was traveling for work. By the time I got home, it was maybe a month after the show finally finished. And I felt like I got home and it took me another month to actually get into routine. And I'm not even kidding. The day after I said, hey, I'm feeling good today, I'm finally getting back into it. Hey, we want you in Mexico. 5 days later, I'm in Mexico.
Gosh.
So it was fast. It was fast. It was a couple months in between, but it felt like a few days. Go to Mexico, 3 weeks, ripped it, and got home and kind of just, okay, well, that was a dream. Like, that didn't really happen, you know? So then you have the quiet time, and the quiet time's interesting because now I think that's one of the most difficult things about dating reality shows, because now you have a relationship that you're tending to, that you're both waiting to see on TV, and you also have to keep private. I mean, the relationships have to stay private, whether you're together or whether you're not. So there's so much like outside noise and anxiety, and then also the thought of, well, what if somebody sees you with someone else, or what if somebody does this or that? So that's very important as well. So being aware, even if you're not with somebody, to not make yourself look like a fool, you know? Then I go on another show, and as you saw, I had a really good connection with Kayla on the show. And, you know, since then have been trying to just keep things under wraps and you know, keep the noise down. All of a sudden, Age of Attraction comes out and the bomb exploded, you know? And that was what was crazy, because going into the Age of Attraction reunion, a lot of people didn't know that I had so much going on in the background from Perfect Match, so much noise, and some was good, some was not so good. So there was a lot of like grounding and making sure that I was pacing myself and that I was not, you know, overwhelming myself, because then how can we present our best self? So it was a lot, but to go back to and wrap it, it was a blessing. So
that is a lot to be going through. So when you filmed the reunion for Age of Attraction, you had already filmed both of the other shows, right? So do you feel like maybe had you had the chance to watch Age of Attraction, you would have approached Perfect Match a little differently? Or you kind of it honestly is two different shows. Perfect Match is a little bit more fun, lighthearted. Like, do you feel like you would have taken other things, seeing how things came out from the first show? Or
that's such a good question. I think that the growth from Age of Attraction to Perfect Match was for sure there, and I had a lot of growth in the way that I presented myself. But I do think that if I watched Age of Attraction first, I would have come with a slightly different perspective, and maybe just treated people a little bit differently, because people would have seen a certain persona on TV that I didn't want to do the same thing again. Maybe just keep my mouth shut a little bit more. That's probably the only thing.
I mean, that's always the thing, but that's what we love, is when you don't keep your mouth shut. So it's a catch-22.
That's true.
Going into Perfect Match, how would you say your Perfect Match experience was just off the bat? Because we haven't seen any of the new episodes. We have seen you get asked to leave, come back. We don't know what's going to happen, but I want to hear your perspective.
All right. So overall, I had a great time on Perfect Match. A lot of fun. A lot of people ask me which show that I have more fun on, and I definitely had more fun on Perfect Match. But
how can you not?
Had some, but had some brutal moments, man. Had some brutal moments. I mean, that vote out was tough, and watching it back on TV was tough. I think that it was really known, and I think amongst the other peers, it was known as well, that me and Kayla were solid. And a lot of people have responded to, oh, well, they were so solid, why were they crying so much when they got voted out? Why were they so sad? They could just go home together. But Perfect Match doesn't work that way. You're part of the experience no matter what. So whether you're not in the house or in the house, at the end, you will either vote for the winner or you will be voted for as the winner. So now you have time separated from each other with no communication. And that chance for us to properly get to know each other was taken away in a long setting, you know? And that's why we were so sad. And I think that, I think it would have changed. I know it would have changed the game huge. And I think we would have won the damn thing, honestly. So,
all right.
You know what? We don't know. But guess what? The thing is not done. It's not done at all. And there's still, and the show, we still have 3 more episodes, and there's a lot coming out. And you know what? I'm very excited for what's to come. So I'm excited for everybody to see how it ends up. and there might be some shockers. So
Is there anything we can give us a little glance at? Have you seen these, by the way, the episodes, or you're going
no,
to see them? Okay, okay,
no, I haven't. I haven't seen any of the new episodes, but I will tell you that okay, this is all I can say. Episodes 5, well, no, it'll be 6 through 8. Will have a really, really, really good moment for me, and then a
okay.
really, 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 really bad moment for me. Okay,
All right.
so
Okay.
I got two opposite sides of the spectrum on the rest of the show, and I'm excited for everyone to
That's
see it.
kind of how it goes. We're excited to see it. Yeah, let's kind of get into some of what's been going on this season of Perfect Match so far. I want to start with some of the love bombing allegations or your self-described love bombing as well, because so you started off,
Sure.
you kind of told a story about how you got a girl a $4,000 bag on your first date.
Oh
This
shit.
is before the
Yeah,
show.
shut up.
What do you do for work that you can afford these bags, dude? I need to get like you.
All right, I'm a trader. I trade the stock market, and
Okay.
we have good years and we have bad years, and that
That was a good
situation
year. That was a good year.
happened. Yeah, that was okay. So that was a good week. Let's just like
All
a really
right,
good week.
you're feeling yourself. I get
This
that.
girl, and let me tell you, this girl. I mean, if you knew her exes, all her exes are famous. Basically, I met her in the most intimidating setting I could have met her, and I'm like absolutely beautiful, top of the line. We go out to like some mall or something, and everything's expensive, and she's looking at some of these purses, and I'm just like, you know what? It's been a great day in the market. Get the fucking purse. You know, like that's what I was
Right,
kind of thinking.
and
Like, I
you're
was just
trying
get
to,
it, just get it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it looks great. I mean, so ridiculous, dude, and it was so funny that like literally a week later, my boys, whatever, sleeping with her. I
That's
was like, get the
tough.
fuck out of
Did you Venmo request your friend for the bag? At least half
Yeah,
of it.
I know.
Yeah.
He still owes me that. Yeah, he still owes-
Is
and that's still his best. Let me just tell you, it's still his best to this day, and he knows it
I'm
now.
I'm sure. I'm sure. So before you like even before stuff like that, like has that been something that you were always kind of like even as like a little kid, you're like confessing your love for girls and like has that been something
I
you've
think
always been doing? Is that a
I
newer
think that
thing?
like it's more. I mean, the gift giving is a huge thing for me. I mean, there's no question. I think
Yeah.
that people didn't. I mean, I brought gifts with me to Age of Attraction. I brought multiple gifts to Perfect Match. I think that it's important to highlight that that's just how I was raised. My mom raised me that way. Anytime I'm out, like I'm here in LA, I'm going home with something. I'm going to take home something. Coming here to LA, I brought gifts for castmates or people to just that are
Yeah.
here. It's something that I like to do. It makes people feel good. It makes me feel good. I think, not I think, I know that the wallet situation could have been handled differently, but it's so funny because I really was not expecting that to come out. I mean, I really was giving her that, thinking nobody was watching, thinking there was not a camera going. I know it sounds crazy, but I just came
Yeah.
off a show where there wasn't cameras in our rooms and there wasn't people filming 24/7, and we had a lot of moments to just have to ourselves. So at this point in the room, we're probably together for. I mean, we'd already showered and unpacked and hung out for a while. So it was casual, and the only thing that's kind of negative is that I didn't feel like it had to be, if it made her uncomfortable, I feel like she could have shared that with me. Like I didn't think it had to be blown out to everybody else. And then when it got blown out to everybody else, on the second night, Mackenzie was sleeping on the couch. So on
Yeah.
Age of
Yeah.
Attraction, I was doing the couching. Now I got couched.
Right.
So I'm
Hey,
like,
it can
there's
happen to
an issue.
anyone.
It's like I know what it means to get couched. Okay, so then that's why when day 3 came around and we had and the bombshells come in, that's why I was so keen to switch and move on. I think that was definitely needed to know.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit. So, okay, so in your mind, you giving Mackenzie or offering to give her the wallet is not necessarily like, and you were unaware that she was uncomfortable with that. And is part of the
Yeah.
reason she slept on the couch because of that, or just in general, she wasn't necessarily feeling your connection as much as it maybe would have seemed on the show?
On the show. Yeah, I think there was two things. I think number one, she was struggling herself. I'm
Yeah,
not going to speak for her. I would love for her to speak for herself, but I think that she was just struggling with the experience a little bit. And being with someone that's so intentional right off the bat probably doesn't make that easier. I would think maybe it does for some people it would, but for her it didn't. And I can hear that. I can see that. Um, what was off was all of a sudden when the date with Dave went not so great, all of a sudden it was like I'm fully expecting to go back to Chris. When last night you were sleeping on the couch. There's a problem there.
right.
I don't feel wanted anymore. I don't feel like this is going to continue. And now I have a girl that's out of 7 guys choosing me. It felt so much better. You know what I mean? And I felt wanted properly. So I don't think it's unfair for me to have switched, but I do think that the communication could have been handled better, possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I mean, look, it's a dating show. You're here to date multiple people. It's hard to get that upset about it. But what was it that initially drew you to Kayla? Is it the feeling of being wanted? Is there other things like
Yeah.
that kind of made you feel like you wanted to switch up sort of quickly?
A lot of people look at Kayla for her looks, and I'm a little bit sad that she was so sexualized on the show because obviously that people already know she's hot. But I was more, and I tell her now, like I was more attracted to your heart than I was your looks, and she really does
Yeah.
have a beautiful heart. She's straightforward. She is a believer. She has a strong faith. I think it's beautiful. And as straightforward and as blunt as she can be, she's very kind and she's very kind-hearted, and she keeps a lot of those emotions in, I think, because it's just how she is. But I could see that, I could sense that off the bat, and that realness, that like just openness that she had with me, I was like, this is exactly what I want. And I want someone that'll tell me what I don't want to hear, even when I need to hear it. So
That's important. I'm a married man. My wife always tells me
yeah.
everything I don't want to hear all the time. So it sounds like you're pretty close with Kayla still. Are you guys in contact after the show? And what's the status with the two of you?
Yeah, so we can't talk about status as far as relationship goes, but you can
Got it.
see that we're in contact. On social media, if you keep up with us, we're definitely in contact. Allison's her best friend and is one of my, if not my best friend from the show. So we definitely stay in contact, and we got a cool little squad out here in LA. So
All right. Well, we're excited to hear more when the episodes come out, and I do
I'm
like
excited
you
too. It'll
guys
be cool.
together.
Oh,
So okay, so you switched over to Kayla, and then came the vote where you guys were eliminated for what people were saying you seemed the least genuine, and to me, it kind of felt like
mm,
people were maybe ganging up on Kayla, not ganging up, but she was the
yeah,
new girl,
yeah,
and it's kind of easier to vote out someone who just got here. And when it got to the vote between you and Jimmy in the tie, it seemed like it made sense to send you home just because you and Kay, not send you home, but you and
because
Kayla
Taylor
were
was
together.
gone.
Kayla was leaving. Is that kind of where you think a lot of that was coming from? Is there stuff that we didn't see as viewers that kind of led to people voting for you? Because you still did get some votes
Yeah.
originally. So was there anything behind the scenes that we didn't see, and where do you think those votes came from?
Yeah, so there was a couple things behind the scenes. I think one thing that was really cool is that me and Jimmy P were such a tight alliance. I don't know what you want to call it, but we were really close friends. There's never been a vote out on Perfect Match before. So when we were
Yeah.
talking that morning, me and Jimmy P, and we were saying, "Hey, I got your back." He came to my room and he was like, "You're a genuine dude, bro, and I would love to have your back." And I looked Jimmy in the eyes and shook his hand like a man and said, "I got your back no matter what." I said those words exactly. Yeah. Not thinking that literally that night we're about to have a vote.
Right.
So when we go around the circle and everybody's sharing what their definition of love is, and I heard Jimmy say, "I'm here, like this is a game. I'm gonna go to the," I'm like, "Jimmy, you're
That
cooked."
was
I
that
like,
was crazy. I was like, Jimmy, why would you say that? Like,
what are you saying right now? And I'm like looking around, and then Kayla like says something to what he said, which just made it worse because then like all
yeah,
of a sudden him and Ali are already voting at Kayla. Anyway, they didn't show me and Kayla's responses. It was super cute. I had the whole script written in my head already.
yeah,
What I was gonna say. And anyway, so it goes around the circle. The vote against Kayla, I believe, was unfair. She didn't have a chance. The
yeah.
girls in the house that were already in the house clearly were pinpointing her, and there was no question. Now, when it comes to being genuine, the other vote shouldn't be me. I mean, simple as that. But Kayla wasn't there. So for me,
Yeah.
it was a lose lose. Regardless whether I stayed or not, it was going to hurt. So at that point, I was honestly in the back of my head, I was like, all right, just get me out of here. Obviously, you want to stay in the house, but I was like, I'm ready to go. It's fine. Didn't talk about anything because me and Jimmy had scratched our votes against each other. That was the key thing. People didn't realize that me and Jimmy didn't vote for each other. And if we did vote for each other, there would never have been a tie. So we scratch our votes against each other. We have to revote. Me and like the whole crew has to revote again. It's a deadlock tie, me and Jimmy. Now it's like, what are we going to do? Okay, we're going to wait for Marissa and Damari. It took a
Oh,
while
so
for Marissa and
so
Damari
there
to
were
get.
there were multiple deadlock ties.
There was multiple deadlock ties before we
Wow.
got to Marissa and Damari coming back. Yeah,
And you're kind
and
of
that's
you're
when,
just like sitting around waiting for these people to come back.
dude, that was the worst part was Kayla already being voted out, having
That's
to sit
tough.
there and wait for the decision of me being voted out. That was so hard. So then Marissa come in all happy from their date, and it looked like a funeral in there, and they're like, "What's going on?" It
Yeah.
felt like
Yeah.
an hour we were sitting there, and I think it was really cool the moment Damari kind of speaking to Marissa, like, hey, I think Chris is genuine. Like, I don't know what you're saying that he's talking
Yeah.
to her girls, but he's showing himself. And Marissa's like, I'm not getting rid of Jimmy. And it did feel, watching it back, that there was more strategy element to that. I mean, you could see what she said. She's like, Jimmy's still talking to other girls. Jimmy's still open. I'm not getting rid of Jimmy. It was like, I'm keeping him here for the strategy. I didn't think there was a genuineness element to it, at least watching it back. And to be honest with you, I need to be fair and talk to Marissa about it first. But talking to Damari about it, that's kind of the notion that I got, that there was a strategic element to it. And like you said, Kayla's already gone. Fine, get rid of him too.
So she maybe wants to get rid of what could be a stronger couple. Is there a thought? Was there a thought in your head of saying, you mentioned, hey, I didn't want to be there anyways if Kayla wasn't there. Was there a thought of you saying, hey guys, let's not vote. I'll just volunteer to eliminate myself?
There was a thought in doing that, like for sure, especially after 10, 15 minutes sitting there. I thought about it several times. Do I just get up and walk out? I just thought that was unnecessary. Like after I was like, I don't want to do anything that's really spur of the moment that in 20 minutes I might regret. And then also what I was thinking was, if I stay in, there's a chance that Kayla comes back.
That she comes back.
We're back together. That was the biggest thing. Imagine I go out and she gets back in later and I'm not there.
She's like, where is he? Right? Yeah. So, yeah.
What the hell,
makes sense.
So
okay, so then you did come back in episode 5. We did see a little bit of a smooch going on with Sophie from Love Is Blind. Can you talk about that a little bit? Is that just something that happened in the game?
Yeah. I went into that mixer and there's not a lot of conversations that were shown, but I spoke a lot with Allison. I was talking a lot about Kayla, trying to figure out like what's the best thing here and how I can get back into the house and hopefully pair up with her. As far as the singles there, the only person that I hadn't really gotten to know was Sophie. And Sophie's beautiful. She's very cool and fun to hang out with. But I wasn't really thinking of like hooking up or making out with anybody. So we go and we sit there and we're playing this game. And the game was, you get to select who you're most into getting to know, and then you kiss that person, So that was the game that was developed. And as you could see, people started going around and Danny picked Sophie. So Danny makes out with Sophie, and then it gets to Nick and Nick picks Sophie. So Nick makes out with Sophie. And all of a sudden I'm the last one sitting there and Sophie's right here. And then it gets, as you can see, it's like, okay, Sophie, who do you want to get to know? You see that line. And then she just, turns around and we start making out. It was casual. It was funny,
these things happen in the shows. Yeah. And do you think that's something that...
But it still felt good. It's still a win.
Yeah. There you go. And so you're saying the whole time, though, you were kind of thinking about Kayla. Let's, hopefully something still works out with her when we're back in the same house together, if we are in the same house.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think that's I think it's okay to not hide that. I think it's fair to say that I went into that singles mixer still with Kayla on my mind. There was no question.
Well, we're excited to see. We're excited to see what happens. I have a couple questions about the show. So when you were dropped in that water during the challenge, how fucking gross was that water?
How about the fact
that looked disgusting?
The water was, the water was disgusting. Okay. Nobody.
I was like, why are they doing this? And the girl's hair is going to be ruined. Like, that shit was crazy.
Getting up when your feet hit the bottom. I was like, get me out of here, dude. No, how about the fact that Damari and Marissa won? Marissa climbs down the ladder. She's like, I'm not gonna get in the water. Damari's like, drop me in the water anyway. I'm so freaking hot, dude. It was so hot that he was like, just jump in this fucking water right now. That was the thing that for me was the hardest thing. How the heat. You see the sweat that I had walking in the first scene, dripping in sweat.
Yeah, yeah, just too hot. It's the physical challenge. You mentioned in your secret that you, as an 18-year-old, hooked up with a 48-year-old Bravo star. How did you pull that off? Like, what was that? Sorry, reality star. How did that happen?
Dude, to be honest with you, it was so out of nowhere. Like I said, I was working with a group of reality stars, and we were traveling and we were doing some really cool things in the mental health space, and we had just a lot of drama that kind of happened out of nowhere, and I was out of the drama, so I guess like I was a source of like somewhat comfort or peace. And then they came up to me, started speaking, and it ended up just being me and her, and all of a sudden, like, I'm talking about it now.
That's a crazy thing. Who can you share who the person was, or is that?
Dude, I can't share who it was, bro. That would be a bomb if I shared who it was.
I gotta ask. I gotta ask. Yeah. So now then it's
I really wish I could.
You go on Age of Attraction, where it's with dating an older woman. Has dating older women been a thing that has kind of been a part of your dating journey consistently, or is that these are just kind of two examples of it?
Yeah. So the long-term relationship that I refer to was not an older woman. She was a couple years younger than me, but very mature
Okay.
for her age. And now she's, married with a family, and she's killing it. So that was the only really long-term relationship. But as far as like smaller relationships that still meant a lot to me, all of them were older. Like the last two
Interesting.
or three were older. Um, I had conversation with one girl that was like 15 to 20 years older. That was probably the oldest. And then as far as like, real relationships that just didn't last too long, but were actually legit, I would say like 3 years, 4 years older. So definitely an experience of like
Okay.
just relating to somebody that has more under their belt, understand how people function and like what it means to go through ups and downs. Like I think that's really important. And I think it's a blessing to be able to connect with people or older or younger, but talking about age of attraction, I did come off and learn a lot about myself. And I do think it's important to be honest and say, I don't think I'm going to be dating anyone, more than 5 or 10 years older than me. I think that's okay to say as well. So
So when you signed up for Age of Attraction, were you told this is a show where you're dating older people, or you kind of told this is a dating show and we'll go from there?
so the concept was, we're going to have the highest quality, high class dating show, people that are truly leaders in their homes and carry themselves a certain way. And with that, you're not going to know anyone's age. So people will look younger, people will look older. I don't think that I went in like, oh, I'm going to date an older girl for sure.
Right.
I
Right.
There was some younger girls that were beautiful that were there that I was interested in getting to know. It just worked out that me and Leah connected the best in that retreat. We did, and we had a really cool connection with some really cool dates, to be honest with you. That I wish people got to see. That zip lining date, and her family visit was a really beautiful date that we had. So there were some moments that people didn't see. That's why a lot of people say, "Can you just tell her you didn't like her?" Like that's not fair, and that's not true either. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been there if that was the case, but you know, it's okay. Things happen.
So what would you say is the biggest difference between both shows as a participant?
Okay, the biggest difference between Age of Attraction and Perfect Match was the fact that cameras were always running on Perfect Match. Whereas on Age of
Okay.
Attraction, your camera time was sporadic, where you're coming in and okay, you're gonna go film this scene and it's gonna be, you have 30 minutes in front of the camera. When it's done, you're off the camera. Perfect Match, completely the opposite. I'm going to the room thinking I'm being sneaky. No one's gonna see me, and they got me in my white underwear doing bicep curls in the corner. So like there really isn't any hiding. That was so different, and I think that also makes it easier. It's harder in a way because it's constant, but it's easier because you're not thinking about cameras anymore. You're not thinking, oh, we're having this conversation on camera or off camera. No, we're always on camera. There's no such thing. Age of Attraction a little
Right.
different. We're having a conversation, and as real and as bros as we are, all of a sudden a camera gets thrown on the side and in our face, and we're a little bit more okay. So how we do, just a little bit more.
Yeah, you're almost not performing, but you're more conscious of it, and it's kind of shaping. You're planning what you're going
Exactly.
to say in a way that you aren't in Perfect Match. And but do you
Right.
think both of
Right.
those shows
Exactly.
you went into them with the same goal of I want to meet someone to have a serious relationship with, or because to me it feels like Perfect Match is a little bit more fun and it's a little lighter.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on both of those? Like your mindset going in?
Yeah, I definitely went into both shows thinking that I was trying to find a serious relationship. It's a blessing to be able to be on TV and be looking for a relationship. I mean, that's incredible. You're doing both, and trying to make something positive out of this experience while also being able to come off with a true partner. That's incredible. Now, I won't lie and say that after Age of Attraction, I went into Perfect Match a little hesitant. There's no
Yeah.
question. The last couple of weeks for me on Age of Attraction were really tough. And to then go into Perfect Match, in the back of my head was like, okay, I'm going to be open. I'm going to be myself. But is it real? Can you really find a relationship on TV? I think that's why I was so relieved when I felt so wanted by someone that was like, hey, I don't want to just be here because you're hot and because I'm into talking to you. I actually like would possibly date you. Like I would possibly
Yeah.
continue this situation after. I think it's also like people should know that Kayla came off Too Hot to Handle, which Too Hot to Handle is a crazy show. She dated this
Yeah.
guy though for seriously what 2-3 years after the show. So I thought that was really powerful, and I was like, this is something that could last. So
All right, so now you're in the
yeah.
Netflix universe of reality shows. Are there other shows that you would like to be on? Maybe not a dating show, but you already are a
Yeah.
millionaire, a self-proclaimed millionaire. So I don't know if you could do the $1 million secret, but maybe,
Yeah.
or you get double million.
Maybe. Double million. Well, how about to be honest with you, some type of challenge, some type of
Yes.
physical, some type of something like that would be fun. I have to look more into the Netflix family. Netflix family has been incredible and given a lot of opportunities. So let's see what Netflix has in store. And if not, maybe we can tease something like a Traders or like a Survivor or
That'd be
something like
sweet.
something fun and moving. You know, so I definitely want to show the physical side.
Right.
There's been too much shit talk from the past when it comes to the physical stuff, so we got to get moving. So
Yeah, we got to keep it moving.
got to keep it
Are you
moving.
are you friends with anyone from Perfect Match still?
Yeah, definitely. I think Age of Attraction, we became such a family. It's everyone's first show. So you become really close. And we had 40 people there. So I could list a lot of people that you probably didn't even see on TV that are really close and I talk to like on a daily basis. Perfect Match, we've gotten, I think, a lot closer recently with all this stuff coming out. You know, we have stayed in communication. Everyone's very respectful. Believe it or not, even through any drama that's happened, everyone stayed respectful for the most part. I would say like Allison's probably my bestie out here, and on the boys, I mean Nick knows. Nick is literally my boy, like my brother. Nick is my brother, straight up. And Jimmy S, we've gotten super close. He's a homie, basketball player, super comfortable. Jimmy S is so real that like it's hard to not be cool with him. The guys in Miami, Jimmy P and Hashim and so we're all very close, which is really
Nice.
cool.
You got a little
So,
crew.
hell yeah.
All right, before we let you go, why should someone watch Perfect Match who has not watched it yet? Give us a quick pitch on the show.
If you haven't watched Perfect Match, I really think you should because unbiased, it's the best season we've had so far. It's entertaining. It has Perfect Match season 4 has multiple things that have never happened in other seasons. It also keeps people on their toes because not to ruin or spoil the show, it literally stops you from being comfortable. The game is not comfortable anymore. Whereas if you look at other seasons, people were able to get comfortable. And I think it'll change Perfect Match forever. I think, as we know what happened, you're not ever going to be able to come into the house and think, oh, well, me and her are solid. We're good to the end. That's not a thing anymore, and it almost goes from a pure dating show to now a game show in a way. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool for viewers. And you get the challenge element of it. And I think that's really cool too,
Fantastic. Anything you can leave us with before we let you go?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just reminding ourselves like to be present and to be grateful for the moment. I constantly talk about mental health, but specifically men's mental health, because for us it's so important to be vulnerable and be open. And sometimes the best way to help the people around us as men is to be vulnerable ourselves, because we're called to be strong. And being in tune with our feelings and our emotions is strong as well. So I just want men to remind themselves of that, and the fact that you cannot grow a relationship if it's not vulnerable, because nothing is valuable if it's not vulnerable. So
Respect.
you grow by being yourself and just keep doing your thing. And usually when you get closest to where you want to be, that's when it gets the hardest. So just keep pushing,
Agreed. Chris, where can people follow you?
Every title is Chris Dahlan. So it's Chris and then Dahlan on Instagram and TikTok and stuff. So
I love it, man. We're excited to see the next few episodes of the show.
dude, you were incredible, man. I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you.
Of course,
Thanks
brother.
for having me.